This evening, first, reckless riding on the rise. From buzzing through traffic to deadly collisions, motorcycle accidents are spiking across Guyana, while traffic officials says it's time to clamp down on what's being done to protect riders and road users alike. Plus, behind the drug trade numbers, a record 4.4 metric tons of cocaine seized, but the U.S. says corruption and underpaid officials still make Guyana vulnerable to narco-trafficking. We break down what's working and what isn't in the fight against organized crime. Also, Guyana pushes back on U.S. drug report. The U.S. lauded Guyana's partnership in fighting drug trafficking, but also warns of loopholes that smugglers exploit. Now the Attorney General is fighting back, while Anil Nandlall says the U.S. report left out key facts about Guyana's anti-corruption progress. Also, UG applications skyrocket. It's a historic first, free university education in Guyana, with over 1,200 people applying each week. We'll show you how the tuition fee policy is already reshaping the nation's education landscape. And deadly attack in Kashmir. In India-administered Kashmir, at least 26 tourists were killed in one of the region's deadliest attacks in decades. Security forces are on high alert as the search for the gunmen intensifies. Stay tuned, these stories and more tonight on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for April 23rd, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, motorcycles remain a growing concern on Guyana's roadways, with traffic authorities and public members alarmed at the increasing number of accidents, reckless behavior, and disregard for traffic regulations among some riders. According to recent traffic reports, motorcycles have been frequently involved in serious collisions, often resulting in severe injuries or fatalities. The issue has become more pronounced in both urban and rural areas, where speeding, overtaking in tight traffic, and failure to wear protective gears are common sights. Law enforcement officials have pointed to a worrying trend. Many motorcycle riders either lack proper training or routinely ignore road safety rules. In several cases, unlicensed or underage individuals have been found operating motorcycles, particularly in remote communities. These incidents highlight gaps in enforcement and a need for increased road safety education. Meanwhile, frustrated drivers and pedestrians are calling for stricter penalties and more visible enforcement to curb the racing problem. The Ministry of Home Affairs, in collaboration with the Guyana Police Force, has pledged to ramp up traffic campaigns targeting motorcycles. Plans are also in place to introduce more frequent roadblocks, safety checks, and public awareness initiatives focused on the importance of helmet use, proper licensing, and responsible riding. While motorcycles remain an affordable and convenient mode of transport for many, the calls for accountability and improved regulations continue to grow louder. Road safety advocates stress that without immediate and consistent intervention, the risk associated with motorcycles will only escalate. As Guyana works towards modernizing its road infrastructure, stakeholders agree that promoting a culture of responsible motorcycle use is essential to saving lives and improving overall traffic safety. On a different note, the United States has reaffirmed Guyana as a key partner in the regional fight against drug trafficking, while highlighting major vulnerabilities in the country's security, legal, and economic systems that traffickers continue to exploit. In its 2025 International Narcotics Control Strategy Report, the U.S. Department of State said Guyana remains a major transshipment hub for South American cocaine heading to Europe, West Africa, and the U.S. This is largely due to its strategic location, dense rainforests, illegal airstrips, and under-resourced law enforcement. The report noted a record-breaking 4.4 metric tons of cocaine seized in 2024 through U.S.-Guyana joint operations, including 2.3 metric tons intercepted in a semi-submersible off the Guyana's coast. Marijuana remains the most widely used drug locally, while methamphetamine use remains minimal. Despite these accomplishments, corruption, poverty, and underpaid public sector workers continue to undermine drug control efforts. The report noted authorities often fail to investigate or prosecute traffickers, creating space for organized crime to flourish. 4 Ghana Defense Force officers were charged with cannabis trafficking in 2024. Efforts to address drug demand include Ghana's National Drug Strategy 2022-2026, public awareness campaigns, expanded treatment services, and partnership with NGOs and indigenous communities. However, progress remains limited due to funding shortfalls and a lack of government commitment. The report stated, the U.S. continues to support Ghana through the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, enhancing training, judicial reform, and port security. The report concludes that while bilateral cooperation is strong, Ghana must implement tougher anti-corruption measures, upgrade its justice system, and improve conditions for law enforcement to combat narcotics trafficking effectively. While the United States has flagged serious vulnerabilities in Ghana's anti-drug and financial system, the government isn't staying silent. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlall has strongly pushed back against findings in the recent International Narcotics Strategy report, calling its assessment of the country's anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism framework surprising.
I recall some months ago that a questionnaire came from the publishers of this report asking some questions, and a lot of information was supplied based upon the questionnaires. Unfortunately, they were not included. A lot of the information was not included in the report.
During his weekly program, Issues in the News, the Attorney General cited the omission of critical information submitted during the preparation of the International Narcotics Control Strategy report. He pointed out that Ghana's anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism system underwent a rigorous 18-month mutual evaluation by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force from 2022 to 2024.
Where every aspect of Guyana's financial structure, every aspect of its AML-CFT regime, its legislation, its public and private sector apparatus, its banking sector, and all its law enforcement agencies were the subject of scrupulous scrutiny in this examination exercise, both onshore and offshore, meaning that experts from the Caribbean Action Task Force came here and spent 2 weeks at a time interviewing persons right across the state spectrum, including the private sector, on various matters after studying all the protocols and all the legislative framework.
Nandlall said the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force found Guyana compliant with international standards and stronger than most of its regional counterparts.
They had one-on-one engagements with law enforcement agencies, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Guyana Gold Board, Geology and Mines Commission, the Central Bank, the commercial banks, all of that. They looked at our legislation at length, our legislative framework, and in the end, at the end of that process, we had to defend an evaluation report at a forum in Trinidad in front of the whole of the Caribbean and Central America. The United States of America itself is a member now of CFATF, and they were present and they participated in the exercise, where Guyana AML-CFT framework was laid bare, and the report, we had to defend the report. And at the end of that process, Guyana came out with excellent evaluations.
The Caribbean Financial Action Task Force assessment, endorsed by the Financial Action Task Force, highlighted Guyana's robust efforts across key sectors such as mining, banking, and real estate, including the implementation of beneficial ownership rules and interagency cooperation mechanisms.
Our ratings were sent to the Financial Action Task Force, where it received that agency's approbation. And that is the international standard bearer on AML CFT. Once you meet that approbation, once you pass that assessment, and you do so with flying colors, which we did, that is conclusive. There is no other agency now that can come and second guess that.
Ghana's Legal Affairs Minister also pointed to recent endorsements from the IMF and the Organization of American States, OAS, both of which praised Ghana's progress in strengthening AML CFT and anti-corruption framework. Responding to concerns about limited money laundering convictions, the minister emphasized that judicial independence limits executive influence over trial outcomes. Since 2020, over 298 charges have been filed, and major asset seizures and freezing actions have been employed to deter financial crime, adding that over 2,000 companies have complied with beneficial ownership regulations since 2023. The minister also addressed the recent OFAC sanctions, including individuals and entities tied to Guyana, noting that it promptly disengaged with those parties and is collaborating with the U.S. law enforcement agencies. Nandlall blasted the International Narcotics Control Strategy report for failing to cite evidence when linking money laundering to public corruption, asserting that Guyana has taken firm action when proof exists, as in the case of former Assistant Police Commissioner Calvin Brutus. As Guyana prepares to submit an update to CFATF later this year, the AML CFT National Coordination Committee continues implementing recommendations to strengthen the country's financial integrity system further. Stick around when we return. Minister Prasad engages Women's Group in Region 5 to boost empowerment, and 30-year-old Savannah Park man remanded for murder during robbery.
GCOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2025 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. How to apply for registration? You must visit the GCOM registration office that is responsible for your area of residence to apply for registration or name change or correction. You must be in possession of the following source documents as might be relevant: original birth certificate or valid Guyana passport for new registration, original marriage certificate and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by marriage, original deed poll and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by deed poll, original naturalization certificate and original birth certificate or valid passport in the case of naturalization. This registration exercise will end on May 30, 2025. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at another address since you were registered. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Come malls make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road, Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. The University of Guyana is experiencing a surge in applications for the 2025-2026 academic year, receiving over 1,200 submissions weekly following the government's rollout of free tertiary education. Applications opened at midnight on April 1st and will be closed on May 16th, covering a range of degree, diploma, and certificate programs. The removal of tuition fees, effective January 1st, 2025, has sparked widespread interest among prospective students. Tuition is now free for all new and continuing students enrolled in diploma, bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs at UG. Students awaiting C-Second CAPE results are encouraged to apply early to secure limited spaces. The measures immediately benefits over 11,000 current students and all future enrollees. This development complements the Guyana Online Academy of Learning Gold Scholarship Program, which has already supported over 29,000 Guyanese in pursuing higher education. The landmark tuition fee initiative marks a significant step in expanding access to higher education in Guyana, and UG is urging interested persons to act swiftly before quotas are filled. In other news, 30-year-old Troyden Trellis of Savannah Park, New Amsterdam, has been remanded to prison in connection with the robbery and murder of 54-year-old businessman Hemchan Utan of Ettingburg, East Banbury. Trellis appeared before Magistrate Michelle Matthias at the Reliance Magistrates Court today, Wednesday, April 23rd, where he was not required to plead to the indictable charge. The incident occurred on Thursday, April 17th. Police Prosecutor Sergeant Mark Edwards informed the court that the case file was complete and requested 3 weeks to make the necessary disclosures, which the magistrate granted. According to the police, Trellis was apprehended during an intelligence-led operation at Stanleytown, New Amsterdam. Officers discovered a 9mm pistol along with 3 rounds of matching ammunition hidden inside a wall divider in the living room of an apartment he occupied. A black Honda motorcycle, identified as the getaway vehicle used during the robbery and murder, was found at the rear of the premises and seized as evidence. The firearm, motorcycle, and other items linked to the crime have been lodged as part of the ongoing investigation. The matter has been transferred to the New Amsterdam Magistrates Court, and Trellis is scheduled to appear on May 19, 2025. Moving on, Minister of Human Services and Social Security Dr. Vindhya Prasad met with women's group in Region 5 earlier today in a robust dialogue focused on empowerment, sustainability, and self-reliance. Held at the Regional Democratic Council's boardroom, the meeting highlighted key ministry-led initiatives, notably the Women's Innovation and Investment Network WIN. The program supports women in achieving their entrepreneurial and personal development goals. The engagement serves as a platform for women to voice their aspirations for personal growth, family advancement, and community transformation. Minister Prasad emphasized the government's commitment to building opportunities that help women become economically and socially empowered. The discussions also touched on broader social challenges within the region, exploring ways in which women can collaborate to support the most vulnerable in their communities. The session reflected a growing movement of women-led progress in Region 5. The Ministry of Human Services and Social Security has been meeting with women in the various regions, aiming to boost empowerment and self-sufficiency. Don't go away after the break. Dominican Republic deports over 130 Haitian women, children in hospital crackdown, and Vatican schedules funeral of Pope Francis for Saturday.
sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smalls make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic deported 135 Haitian women and children on Monday as part of a new crackdown targeting undocumented migrants in hospitals. Among those removed were 48 pregnant women and 39 new mothers. The move, part of President Luis Albander's 15-point immigration plan, has drawn criticism from rights groups and medical officials who warned the policy could deter vulnerable migrants from seeking urgent care amid Haiti's worsening crisis. Pope Francis' funeral is set to take place in Vatican City and Rome on Saturday. The decision was made during the first meeting of the Congregation of Cardinals since his death. Saturday's funeral is expected to draw global attention, including world leaders and thousands of Catholics. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hall reports.
It is inevitable following the death of a pope that the faithful should come here to St. Peter's Square, the heart of the Catholic Church. Within these Vatican walls, Pope Francis chose to live in a Spartan set of rooms instead of the lavish apartments of his predecessors, a lifestyle that mirrored his embrace of the poor and marginalized.
His legacy will be peace. I think he did a lot for the abuse of children within the church. I think he sounded that out very, very well.
The more modernisation of the church, where historically it's probably been quite rigid, so he's probably brought in new and fresh ideas.
A papacy grounded in humility, a pope even in frailty, at work to the end. A legacy built on his efforts to put the church back in touch with the people.
Because he chose the name Francis, which means Saint Francis of Assisi. So it means somebody who is very poor, somebody who is with the people, and somebody who really cares what happens with the poor, with the poorest of the poor.
The Pope's funeral on Saturday will be one of the highest profile events in years, drawing mourners in their many thousands, members of the global church and world leaders representing the 1.4 billion strong Catholic congregation. It'll take place on the steps outside St. Peter's Basilica, as past papal funerals have done, most recently that of Pope Benedict XVI.
But this time there will be differences. A funeral carried out in a simplified style decreed by Pope Francis himself, who wanted to avoid being idolized in death.
Pope Francis stipulated that he would not be buried in the hallowed grottos of St. Peter's, but instead across Rome in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. Here he came secretly to pray after becoming Pope in 2013. And here he will lie, according to his final wish, in a plain tomb unadorned, but for the Latin name Franciscus inscribed on top. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, at the Vatican.
No matter how far humans venture away from Earth, they still have to eat. Now, scientists are trying to find ways to grow food in space instead of bringing meals from Earth. Al Jazeera's Wilson Desar reports.
Keeping spacefarers fed is a tall order. For decades, space agencies around the world have devised creative ways to feed them, usually with freeze-dried or canned rations that take up room on board. And the grocery bills are eye-popping.
Just think that an astronaut consumes between half a kilo and 1.5 kilograms of food per day. and every kilogram we ship to space can be $20,000 US. So imagine every meal can be something like $10,000. So what if we just make the food we need in space instead of bringing it from Earth?
Power and liftoff.
On Tuesday, an experiment designed by researchers at Imperial College London took off to see if a device known as a bioreactor could grow food or even fuel from cell samples. The researchers hope it will be a stepping stone to more complex manufacturing systems for other uses, on our planet and beyond. Low gravity allows for the manipulation of molecules in ways that are impossible on Earth.
That way, we can manufacture, let's say, cancer drugs in space and bring it back down for research or therapeutics. But down the line, when we have the moon base, we need these kind of bioreactors to be able to really sustain permanent settlement of human civilization in this environment.
Scientists already showed they can harvest lettuce on board the International Space Station. In the future, there might be even more on the menu. Wilson Dysard, Al Jazeera.
Finally, Indian security forces are searching for gunmen behind an attack on tourists in Pahalgam, Indian-administered Kashmir, that killed 26 people, all men. The deadliest such incident in decades in the disputed region, Al Jazeera's Fearless Nuwara reports.
The town of Pahalgam in Indian-administered Kashmir is shut down, a tribute to the victims of Tuesday's attack by gunmen that killed or injured many tourists and locals. Security forces comb through its streets. They've promised to bring the perpetrators to account. The attack in Pahalgam has quashed a general sense of safety that authorities had been wanting to maintain.
This is a big counter to the narrative of peace and stability that New Delhi has been projecting for a while now, in support of their own move of reorganizing Jammu and Kashmir state in 2019, downgrading it into a federally run union territory, running it with an iron hand. And they've been talking about the high tourist numbers as a sign of normalcy and peace and stability.
In recent years, attacks targeting tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir had become increasingly rare. That helped the region's economy with a resurgence of tourism. But Tuesday's attack has shaken distraught travelers.
How can we continue our trip in such a situation? We need to prioritize our safety. Authorities have declared a red alert, so everything has been shut down.
I do not have words to express how sad and frightened we are. We were supposed to stay in Kashmir for 2 more days. However, we have cancelled our tour now and we are moving back to Jammu.
The shooting is being described as the worst attack on civilians in India in 17 years. The federal interior minister arrived in the region to console the bereaved in Srinagar. But his critics say security agencies failed and they've called for his resignation. Police say the gunmen involved are linked to a local separatist group. The attack has stoked long-standing tensions in the region and protests are expected in parts of India. Felix Nyora, Al Jazeera.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3D weather forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Wednesday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.